Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Jim Dar's Tone Shifter channel, where we show you how to take any guitar and make it sound and play better. So join me in the Guitar Cabin, our musical sanctuary from day-to-day life, and be sure to watch to the end for a special bonus clip. Let's see what we have today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Jim Dar, and this is the Tone Shifter Guitar Channel. And we're coming to you from the Guitar Cabin, which is our musical sanctuary from day-to-day life. I'll be your guide to everything and anything guitar, and I'll teach you the steps and the processes and the methodologies that I use to assess an instrument, decide whether or not to move forward, and then how you actually execute that plan once you do that. And we'll be taking a look at basically everything and anything from simple rewiring to neck adjustment, relief, nut adjustment, intonation, things like that. And we'll go into some steps and procedures along the way in this journey that'll help you become better at assessing what your guitar needs so it plays and sounds the best that it possibly can to you. We'll also teach you when to look at something and say, it's just not worth it. You know, to put $100 of parts into a guitar that's worth $50, unless you just want to practice, it's not worth it. If you just want to practice, then it's well worth it and worth the effort. So, why should you listen to me? I've got over 40 years of experience building guitars, restoration work in terms of vintage instruments. I've taken basket case guitars that have literally been splintered and put them back together, and I'll show you some evidence of that in pictures throughout the episodes. One of the main things I focused on is guitar pickups. Actually, in the cabin here, we have a room dedicated to pickup winding, so no sawdust and anything like that gets to it. And I'll take you on a sneak tour of that at the end of this episode so you get an idea of what's to come. I want to make this informative. I want to make it about you. I want to help you grow. I want you to be able to identify and get the sound that you really want. So each week we'll explore and assess different aspects of the guitars. What we're going to talk about today is an overall tutorial on a fret level and ReCrown on a Stratocaster. Pretty basic stuff, but we're going to talk about some things in the sequence of things that need to be done in order for it to come out the way you want it. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on each step, but I will focus in future episodes on each step in the process of how you evaluate a guitar and how you set it up. Please ask questions and give me your comments. And also, please like this video and subscribe. It'll be very helpful to me as I'm starting this up. And also, share it with like-minded musicians. The more people that we've got that are looking at this channel and other channels like this that understand more about the mechanics and maintenance and setup of a guitar, the better off the guitar playing community will be overall. And I'm a big proponent of that. And even if you decide never to, take a file to a fret or adjust a nut or adjust the intonation, as long as you know what it is that you feel is deficient in the guitar, you'll be able to communicate that clearly to the repair tech. And remember, not all repair techs are equal. Some are really, really good at what they do. Others are just learning. So be cautious, be careful, be informed. So let's take a look at this Strat right now and step you through the process. Thank you again for joining, and again, please be sure to stay tuned to the end. Okay, let's see what we have here today. Looks like a Fender case. Is it going to be a Fender inside? We don't know. Let's take a look. Alrighty. What we've got is a Strat Plus with an LSR roller nut. Year 91 approximately, according to the decal. This guitar has some deep divots in the frets. needs a general setup. See if we can take a look at some of these divots. Yeah, you can see they're pretty deep. All the way up. So we'll either do a refret on it, or if we have enough height left, we'll try leveling and recrowning. Let's take a look at the straightness of the neck. And one of the things that you always do when you put a straight edge on is you make sure it's touching. And if I can rock it this way, like this, that means that there's a hump in the bow, in the neck bow, like that. If I can put it on either end and make it flex like this without touching the fingerboard, then that means that the bow of the neck is like that, which is really what we want. We take an adjustment. I think this takes a 1/8 of an inch hex Allen wrench. We'll find out in a second. But in order to do this, I'm actually going to take the strings off of the guitar and take the neck off of the guitar and take the tuners off. These are locking tuners. Overall, nice guitar. But let's see if we can't get it to have better playability, less buzz, less fret out. Away we go. So we got the neck off. It's in good shape. I'm going to take the tuners off so we can have a clear plane here, and also take the LSR nut off. So let's do that first. I started removing the screw. Now, I believe there's, I looked at it earlier, it looks like there's 3 shims underneath it. And there's 2 shims, 3 shims. Look, I wonder why they did that. Probably to get it over there. Okay. We've got a solid metal shim, half of a shim to bring up the treble side a little bit, and then it looks like a business card in there. Music. This has been set up by somebody. It looks like music, something. But anyway, we've got that all out. I'll put that down here, and then we'll take the rest of the we'll take the tuners off now. Should mention that the guitar has lace sensor pickups, TBX control, all of which sound okay. Their pots are a little scratchy, jack's a little crackly, so it just needs to be cleaned up, it looks like. But we'll take a look at that when we're done with this. Okay, so now I've got the neck off, got the nut off, got the tuners off, and I can start working on assessing what we need to do to this guitar. So I'm going to start by taking my 25.5 inch roll and just checking at a couple places. Okay. See, when I rock it back and forth this way, I'm now getting, let me get that out of the way. When I rock this back and forth this way, you hear that noise? That means that the neck is bowed like this and needs to be backed off slightly. So let me do a little turn. You always want to make sure you use the right size Allen wrench or hex driver for the truss rod, because if you don't, you're gonna round the edges off of the receptacle inside for the Allen key, and you're not going to have an effective or working truss rod after that. So I had loosened it, and I had a little too much of a bow like this in it, so I want to bring it back up. So I just tightened it like a 1/16 of a turn, making sure I'm using the same scale. That looks pretty flat, but I'm not scraping there. Another little bit of a turn. I just want the neck, the fingerboard, to be perfectly flat when I do my adjusting. Now that looks like that has it. Perfectly flat all the way. Well, maybe another little turn. You can tell I'm just going in little by little by little by little. And I'm checking the gap underneath. So we've got a little bit of a rock in it. I'm being very picky here. This is the thinnest feeler gauge I have. But if you listen, I don't know if you can hear that, but there's still a little bit of a rock, which now means I'm a little high in the middle. Ever so slight turns can have a huge effect. Okay, we absolutely don't have a rock. All right, I'm going to call that dead level. We're going to go with it. So the next thing I want to do is put this back where it's supposed to go so I can find it, because I'm going to have to tighten that truss rod up when I put tension back on it. So the whole concept right now is to have a perfectly flat fingerboard. I'm not measuring the frets with a straight edge. It was using the notched. So if I come in with a straight edge, it's bowed a little bit like that. It's not doing it there, not rocking. But that's telling me only the level of the fret tops, not the level of the board. I want to dress this fingerboard based on the level of the rosewood. So that's why you use a notched one. What we're going to do is we're going to level the tops of the frets to make it even from here to here. And then once we get that point, I'm going to remark the frets and then recrown them so we have a correct point of contact for the string where you're not going to get any buzz and it's not going to affect your intonation. Kind of boring, I know, but the other important thing when you start filing or sanding is that you don't put any downward pressure on the neck itself, because that'll make it bow like this. So you'll be filing in consistently with the plane of the flatness of the boards. In other words, if I'm pushing down real hard, I'm going to sand the tops down here more than I am in the middle, and you don't want that. So to even the pressure, I can do one or two things. I can go very lightly. I can put this on here, but again, it's not a good fit when I'm down here. So I'm going to just lay the board on a flat surface and take my file and you can see that I'm filing all through here, and that getting these down pretty good, getting this down pretty good, but in here I'm not touching it at all. So that means that these were low in relation to these other fret tops. A couple divots there, a divot there. This looks pretty good. A low spot there, two low spots, so a couple low spots there. So we're going to do it a little bit more. Now tools are everything, and I was using the file. It files both ways, cuts down significantly, but it leaves a lot of marks. So next I'm going to want to go with sandpaper before I take it down any further. I'm going to remark it. There's two ways I can go. I can go with a radius block, something like this, even though this isn't the right match. I won't use a 12 on a 9.5 neck, but you have to keep the block parallel to the length of the neck. If you twist it like this, you're going to be filing some more than you are others. So I like this flat block. It's got a piece of glass on it. I got this years ago. I can put different grits on, and it's fairly long. So that's taking it down a little more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remark this. I'm going to take a look for the high spots still, and then we'll go from there and try to get these things leveled out. Finish. Now from time to time you also want to check with your straight edge. Make sure that the board's still flat.
Now the frets are level and it's time to recrown them.
I'm going to do this one with the file,
which is a 300 grit diamond file.
Just little by little, rolling it a little. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. See how I'm leaving, I don't know if you can see this, I'm leaving a very, very fine line up on top. I'll polish that out in a second, but I don't want to go beyond that because then I'm lowering the whole fret. That makes sense? All right, just watch me do it. See how it feels. I'm going to start with the straight edge.
Now I'm measuring the tops of the frets rather than the fingerboard because the tops of the frets are what's most critical now when the strings hit them.
looks perfect. Let's try the fret rocker.
The fret rocker helps you determine if one of the frets are high. You span it on 3 frets and you can see if one of them is high, so you'd want to mark that and then move on down the neck. There are different sides to the fret rocker that allow you to span 3 frets and no more.
So I've got a wooden dowel, an oak wooden dowel with leather and felt around it, not leather, but rubber rather. And what I'll do is this. And I'm not too concerned about the fingerboard because I need to scrape that down. Okay, let's put this over here, get all this stuff out of the way. Organize this by grit. That's 1,000, 800, 320, 400. So I'm going to start with 320. It's a used piece of sandpaper, and I'm just gonna go back like this. Okay, I'm back with a single-sided razor blade. I'm gonna scrape.
The trick to using a razor blade to clean a fingerboard like a rosewood or ebony fingerboard is to make sure that the blade is sharp, to keep it at an angle to the wood. Don't create any gouges or don't shove the edge in toward the fingerboard. Just try to scrape the gunk and grime off of it. Just do the same thing, and also try to not hit the frets with it. That's important as well. Do not do this on a maple or lacquered fingerboard. You'll scrape through the coating. Only do it on a raw rosewood or ebony board.
Oh, we probably don't need it, but because these frets are pretty smooth, but we'll give it another buffing. Put this on a slow speed, just to shine them up a little. I normally do this on my big buffing wheel, but the motor's out.
Now I'm applying lemon oil to nourish the fingerboard. I'll put a coat on, let it soak in, and wipe it off. After that, the neck is done.
Okay, this Strat now sounded and played extremely well. It was effortless, no buzz, the right action, the right playability. We cleaned up the control so it doesn't sound scratchy or rattly. The owner really appreciated the work that I did, and he even more appreciated the fact that I was able to save the frets, so it didn't devalue the instrument by putting new frets on it. This could be a collector's guitar someday. You know, people say, you know, yeah, it will. People say it won't. Well, I can say, well, I can honestly say, treat any guitar as though it's going to be a vintage collectible instrument. If you're going to make modifications to it and try to make it play better for you, make sure, if at all possible, that that's reversible. in the 1970s, as an example, Fender and Gibson guitars weren't considered that good, and people were looking for the 60s and the 50s versions of them. But I can tell you now that those guitars are really collectible. Stuff that I was able to sell for, you know, $300, $350 are now worth a couple $1,000s. So you don't know. So don't take a chance if you don't know. So once you learn the basics, you'll be able to apply it to any guitar, and this is just one example. So please find an inexpensive guitar that if you ruin it and you are going to mess up, how do I know? Just ask me. I've done it many times. Start with a cheap guitar, practice, assess the guitar, figure out what you need to do, try it, do a lot of research, look to my channel on those episodes, look to other people's channels, and try to figure out the best way to approach it. If you've never thought about doing that before, just try to understand the basics and the mechanics of, and the physics really, of how a guitar is set up and what's best for you. Now I like 24 3/4 fret lengths. I used to like 25.5. A lot of the guitars I built were 25.5, and I don't like that anymore. I don't know if I'm getting older and stretching is harder or not, but I'm into 24 3/4. So thanks for staying with me to the end, and here's a sneak peek at my pickup winding room to take us out. I'll devote a whole series to making pickups, the different winding patterns, the different things to look for, the different things to try to understand if you're a pickup maker yourself. I've got a lot of vintage coil winding machines. Some of them were used in the 50s, like what Gibson used to use in the Kalamazoo plant. Some of them are what Fender used. Some of them are what people are using now. I don't know how many I have. We'll have to count them, but I think there's about 7, 8 machines there. More than what I need. This is a hobby. But once I get something, I can duplicate it, and I like doing that very much. So again, ask questions, give me your comments, like the video, subscribe, share with a couple of like-minded musicians, and again, thanks for watching. Till next time, keep playing, keep dreaming, keep safe, and be kind. Our pickup winding's next.
And now for today's bonus clip. As most of you know, besides building guitars and restoring guitars, I also wind my own pickups. Been doing it for years. Have a separate shop that's dedicated to that. So let's take a look at it. Here we are winding a humbucking pickup on 2 different machines, a Essex 315 and a Baki 115, very similar in design. These are automatic traverse. Come up with a formula that I really like for them. So take a look, hope you enjoy. See you next time. Remember to like this channel. Bye.